So, good morning. We're going to be looking at the Academic Research Skills unit again today. We're near the end of this unit now, so we've got 2 more learning outcomes left. So, today we're going to be looking at learning outcome 5, which is be able to produce the final piece of academic work. There's 3 assessment criteria in here: a pass, a merit, and a distinction. The 5.1 pass is produce academic work to a professional standard using your existing draft. What this means is the work that you've done for learning outcome 4, where you created a plan and you made a research plan, so you researched a topic and you wrote about it, you want to use that same work and you want to actually create that in a professional standard. So either put it in a PowerPoint or put pictures into it, just make it a bit more snazzy, a bit more professional. 5M1 is present your academic work orally at a professional standard to an audience. And 5D1 is present academic work at a professional standard to an audience and discuss the content of the work. So make a presentation and then talk about your presentation. So let's make a start here. And remember, when you go into your indicative content, it just gives you an idea of how your presentation should be laid out. Just gives a nice little part on here that you can have a look at, just to make sure you're following the right points. So this PowerPoint that we're going to be looking at, learning outcome 4 and learning outcome 5 actually go hand in hand with each other. So we're just going to be reiterating exactly how we want to have the professional standard work done, what a research project is, so we'll be going over a few areas. So it'll be quite similar to what you've actually learned in our last session. So the points that we're going to be looking at, so produce your academic work to a professional standard using the existing draft, so your draft at learning outcome 4. So use that work that you did at learning outcome 4 for 4.1 and 4.2, and use it and enhance it to a professional report. So like I said, you might decide to make it into a PowerPoint presentation where each slide will be supported by presented nicely with a good background with some images to support it. You might want to put some charts and some graphs into it. So just something to make it a lot more professional. You're going to get your draft reviewed by myself, so you can always email that to me once you've done it. I'll have a look at it and I'll give you a bit of a review. And then also have an emphasis on your findings of the research. So whatever you found out in your research, emphasize it. Tell us exactly what you found out in your research. And then also put some recommendations, put down your own judgment. Tell me what you think should be changed, or you think that this is fantastic the way things are, but I would like the A, B, and C to be implemented, and so on. So your this section, when you're doing it at a professional standard, will be around about 250 to 300 words. So remember, you've done 90% of the work in learning outcome 4. You're just using that same work and making it a bit more colourful and professional and a bit more snazzy. So we're just going to talk about what sampling is here. So we've got a few things that we're going to look at over the next few slides. What samples are, what a population or universe is in the context of research, population element, and then we've got the census that we're going to look at. So a sample is a subset of a larger population, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So a population is a total collection of elements which we wish to make some inferences about. So when we say population, so if you've decided to do a research project on a certain group of people, say all the care workers within a certain care home or within a certain group of care homes, that's your population. So all those staff members that work in that particular care home or in that particular group of care homes, they are your population, they are your group of people that you're going to be looking at. So this group of people, when we talk about population, could be people, it could be stores, it could be territory. So maybe you want to find out which area within Manchester sells more footballs and so on. It's just really up to you what you're focusing on. And now you might have had something about the census come through lately, because the census is a questionnaire type thing that happens every 10 years by the government. Now, lately, I've just filled mine in a few weeks ago, and I think the deadline is finished now, but everybody needed to fill in the census.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you, it's quite a long, yeah.
Yeah.
And then on that, it just asks you about all the different elements that make up a population. So in the census that I did, I filled it in for my family. So I had to put down my occupation, where I work, what sort of industry I'm in, how old I am, my address, all of those in. I had to do that for my husband, what occupation he's in, how many hours, so on work. And then with my children, they're all in school, so they were easy to fill out. But it took me at least an hour to fill out. It was very detailed. Yeah,
it's quite a lot of questions.
Yeah, it wasn't the most easiest thing, was it?
No.
But so that is done. The census is actually done so that the government knows how many people are living within the country, what your skills are, what sort of groups that you're working in. They just get a load of information about who you are, what you do, where you live, what you like, all of those things, and then they just work off from there. So in a way, that's a research. They're researching us, the population, to see what our skills are. And then we're just going to talk about sampling. So sampling it's a process of using a small number of items within a larger population. Like, for example, like I was saying, if you're going to do a research project on care homes, you're going to be interviewing the staff members, or you're going to be looking at the staff members and the patients and the families that actually work within that care home, or are using the care home, living there, or they've got family members that are there. You're not going to ask every single member of that care home you're not going to go up to every single person and start asking them questions or trying to do research, because that will probably take you months. If there's like 50 residents, 30 members of staff, and each of the 50 residents has like 2 to 3 to 5 members of family that you can do, you've got an enormous amount of people that you'd probably end up having to do research on or ask questions. So instead of asking every single member of that group their ideas or their views or giving them a questionnaire, you'd choose a few people from the family members, you'd choose a few people from the residents, and then you choose a few members of staff. So instead of doing like 300 people, you'd probably end up having a sample of 30 people that you'd ask what their views are. So it just gives you an idea of what these people think, but you're doing it in a smaller way. So you're not having to be as time consuming as any other way. So when you're selecting samples, so this is just an example here. So you've got a population here, you've got all of these people that are within a certain care home or within a certain area. Instead of asking every single person the question, you ask a few people out of it. So it's a good image to support that. So why do we sample? So as we were talking about, if you want to survey 300 people within one area, it's impractical. It takes a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of effort. And to be honest, mostly you probably end up getting the same results out of a few people than you would having to get them out of 300 people. Now, just imagine you going around, taking the time, a couple of weeks, to hand out the surveys, finding each person first, getting them to fill in your survey or your questionnaire or asking questions. Then you're going to get all of those 300 different sets of sheets of paper, or you're going to collate that information, and you're going to have to go through each one, and that's going to take you a lot of time too. You're going to be making charts and graphs, and it's just too much data. So it's not practical. It's not practical, is it? So that's why we do sampling instead. Sampling also helps you to keep, if you've got a budget, it also keeps you within that budget. So you're restricting your data collection. You're not spending so much money on printing papers or physically walking around doing these things. Helps you save time. And also, you're not having to collate all the information out of 300 surveys. You're doing it out of a small group of them, so you get your data quickly. And then this is an image of what sampling techniques there. And again, like I was saying, this is very similar to what we've done at Learning Outcome 4. When you're looking at doing a research, you're probably going to looking at ebooks, articles, journals, reports, the internet. Now, we've got a nice site on here that you can actually go onto to look at ebooks. So if any textbook is available online, then you will be able to find it on the online library catalogue. So it's called OPAC. So if any textbook that you want to look at, but you don't physically want to purchase, if it's available as an ebook, just type that title in onto the online library catalogue, and you should be, if it's available, you'll be able to access that from there. So it's a nice site to go on to, just to have a look. You can look at newspaper articles. I mean, when I was younger, in my university days, when I wanted to look at newspaper articles from the past for any research that I was doing, I had to physically go into the library. They'd have archives where you could scroll through, type in the date, and you'd be able to scroll through the articles. Nowadays, you're able to do this on the internet, so gain a lot more information off the internet, so it's much easier. Newspaper websites normally give you free access to your current daily paper, but if you want to go for any newspaper articles that are a lot older, you might have to pay to search for those copies. And then you've got journal articles. So some journals are available in hard copy. So you can go into libraries and so on, and they'll have an editions of healthcare journals, NHS journals. I mean, I've got journals that I get from the Society of Education and Training on a monthly basis, delivered home in like a magazine form. So you can get hard copies. Any of the old copies are archived, so you can actually access them from there. And then these journal articles are just there. They've got already research has been done for you. It's just a nice little thing to reference back to, so you've got something to note towards. You've got some reference that might have been done, and you can also, add to those researches. Then you've got reports, so you can actually access reports via Google. So you can use Google Scholar. So instead of just going into normal Google, just type in Google Scholar and it'll give you higher quality of materials. So put in your title and then see if there's a report for it that's available. And then any official information you want, you can actually try the council websites, the government websites, or any of the organisations that you know that might have produced a report. So these are just some areas that you can actually use to gather information, gather research that has already been done. So like secondary research. The primary research will be you physically going out and about and finding fresh information, fresh data yourself. And then web documents. So you probably already know a lot of this anyway, because you do go online, you do research, you type in the odd keywords, and then you try and see what comes up. So if you use web documents, you'll need to make judgments about their quality, because there's a lot of mixed things on the internet, and not everything you see on there is true. So you'll just have to check, use your own judgment to see, does this look legitimate? Does this look fine? Does it look like it's been done well? So just see who published it, when the information was published. So was it done in 2008? Was it done in 2020? So the more recent, the more up to date. Is the source authoritative? So is it something that's just been done by a normal service that maybe writes essays and they've just put something together? Or has it been done by the government? Has it been done by an official, by the NHS or by a care group and so on? And then use your own, because if you're researching something that you're quite familiar with anyway, you'll probably already have a lot of background information yourself. So I always suggest when you want to carry out a research, do something that you already know a little bit about or you're already aware of, just so you know you can tell if it's right or if it's not. Now, when you're searching literature online, I actually have a really nice site that you can go on to that have some research projects that have already been done, which will really help you. But before we get into that, look at type in the keywords, choose what the keywords are and what you need that will best describe what you're looking for. And then use the word "and" to narrow your research. So you might want to do diabetes and childhood, or you might want to do obesity and Manchester. So, you know, it'll help you narrow down, so obesity in Manchester, childhood diabetes, and so on. So keep a note of the references. It's all, remember, because we're referencing our work a lot, especially when you're going to university, they're going to expect referencing you to be quite well versed within referencing anyway. So always keep a note of what your references are. And then take some time, conduct your research. Don't stray off to a different topic. If you find something, focus on what you're looking at. If you find something that you think is interesting, just copy and paste the website into a notepad or onto a Word document, and you can go back and look at that on your own time. And then we've got, like I was saying, we've got a website that we can go onto, and it's got a whole load of projects on there that have already been done. Now, I'm going to show you where that is just in a moment. So the following sites, these are some sites that already have some research projects done already for you. So you can actually look at them, look at the information, and then possibly use a good amount of what they're doing themselves, and then also go onwards to research or have an idea. So you can click on these, or the best thing to do is, which I prefer, if you go into the academic research skills unit. Hi, good morning. Just had somebody else join us, that's fine. So go on to the academic. Good morning.
Sorry for joining late.
Oh, no problem. That's fine. We've gone through the PowerPoint, but you'll be able to access that part in the recording. What I'm doing is, as I was saying to Addy, this unit now, this section now, is very similar to what you've done on last Thursday's session, where we talked about research. So that research that you're doing on Thursday for Learning Outcome 4 is actually going to be used to make it into a professional standard for Learning Outcome 5. So in Learning Outcome 5, yeah. So you're going to use the same research, but you're just going to make it more professional. You're going to add images and charts. You might want to do it as a PowerPoint. You might want to keep it as Word. It's up to you how you do it, but it needs to be as if you're presenting it in like as if it's in a magazine or if it's being a presentation for a class.
Okay.
Now,
I have a question I want to ask.
Yep.
Yesterday I was struggling with accessing the workbook when I was trying to go through my assignment. I was struggling
you couldn't get into
to access the workbook.
Well, I'm going to be changing that workbook because I had everybody wanted me to do it in a format that was accessible for them on Word rather than WordPad. So I'll get that emailed to you tomorrow. Once I'll have a look at it, and then I'll email the Word document style off to you tomorrow, so you shouldn't have any issues with that.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So as I was saying, if you go into Academic Research Skills Unit, Scroll down, you've got the Learning Outcome 5 PowerPoint here, but then click on this where my cursor is now, Research Project in Health and Social Care. So click on that one. I've already clicked on it before. And this is by the calculation, right? What they've done over 100 projects over the last 5 years. So if there's something that you're interested in, you probably will be able to find something over here. So if you, as you can see, it's completely go down. So if I want to do research on social care, I'll just click on that and it'll come up with a number of articles, the different type of researches that have been done. So if you see, there's one about developing data analytics to improve how social care is monitored and understood. Then there's a care force neighborhood mapping. And analyzing quality of life for people with a learning disability. So there's a whole load of things within here. Adult social care and safeguarding during COVID-19. So if you can click onto these, and there's a very detailed, this has been done by the Keele University. So you've got very detailed information about what has been done on here. So you can actually use this as a background, as some information for what you're doing. Now this one is still going underway. So if you click on here, it shows that this is still happening, that this is still underway. So it's not being completed at the moment, but you can use it as some information. And if you go back and let's see, let's click on a different one. Let's do children and young people. At children's places, how can they shape health and influence social economic outcomes? Research to support an inquiry into young people's future health prospects. Engagement to understand young people's health prospects. So just click on, so go in, see what interests you, click on one, have a look through it, and it gives you a nice bit of information on these. So this work has now been completed, so you can actually click onto this link here and see the full report. These are the full research. So you do have access to full researchers on here. So it's a nice idea to go into that one there. Hold on, let me get back to where I need to go. Now we do have this one that says Scotland, but the link has timed out, so I'll get that removed. So don't click onto that, make sure you do it into the research project in health and social care. So on here, when we looked at Learning Outcome 4 last week as well, looked at this folder, LO4 and LO5 additional handouts. And on here, I went through a few of these documents, just showing you how a research project should be laid out, what sort of information you can add into it, you know, where you're talking about what the researcher's aims are, what your objectives are. You have a section on literature review where it just shows, where you just go and you're putting the main body of your research into that, then you're putting a summary, a conclusion, and then that'll include your own judgments or any recommendations you make. So I'm going to turn the recording off.